Well, as our nation is roiled by deep divisions over everything from politics to class, no shock it will be the case in the church. At Bishop Jake's Pastors Conference that took place last week, where we broadcast from, there was a panel moderated by April Ryan. She began by asking the panelists, which included Father Michael Flager, Reverend Joshua Dubois, Pastor Paula White, Bishop Harry Jackson, by asking them about their spirit of activism in the country.
Talk to me about modern day and yesterday, and how do they meet in the church for the ills that are still plaguing this society that's been going on for generation, hundreds of years. How do you change that dynamic in a time such as this?
Well, I think this is an opportunity for the church that we better not miss. We have looked for government, and particularly Democrats and Republicans, to shape us and shape our character, our culture, our morality, and they've both failed, because they're not supposed to be shaping morality. The church is supposed to be shaping morality. Everybody has a lobbyist in Washington but the poor. The church is supposed to be the lobbyist of the poor. And if the church is not the lobbyist of the poor and the disenfranchised, then we have failed.
How do you do it? How do you fight for the least of these and be the church, keep your status, but yet make sure your people are taken care of?
When a politician calls and says, "Can I come and speak to the congregation from the pulpit?" say no, but you can come to my food pantry and serve people there.
Right.
You can come to my ex-offender ministry and serve and hear from formerly incarcerated persons. You can come to my ministry for women who have experienced domestic violence and hear their stories. We need to not accept politicians in our spaces without receiving concrete commitments from them to serve our people.
Right, right.
There's been too much of this. We're going to wrap our arms around folks without understanding what they're going to do with that next. And we've got to be stewards of our platforms on behalf of those most in need. Yeah.
Well, one of my challenges is, I love the scriptures he quoted, but we need real spiritual power. Yeah. It seems like to me, as far as I've been engaged in the whole political world, there's a group of people who never pray, but they got all kinds of opinions, and they're activists. Then there are a bunch of people who pray, but they never go anywhere and engage people.
So faith without works is dead.
Faith without works is dead.
Right.
So to his point, yeah, they've got to come together.
Both ends.
And we need churches to come together regionally if we're going to change, let's say, Baltimore, near where I live. And so just to summarize where I am, I think we've got to deal with, if you deal with racism, there's a heart issue that has to be ministered to spiritually, right?
Yeah.
But we know there are structural issues that are keeping people excluded, but you can't deal with one without the other, and I seem to see us in this predicament.
You know, I'm agreeing with Bishop Jackson here, and I'm going to take even a slightly maybe different approach on it, and that is going back to my original statement when I said that I believe the church is the only legal entity by God authorized to bring forth change. Responsibility comes to us. So if there is a poor person, we are responsible within our own churches, within our community, within our local community to take care. I'm not looking to Washington, D.C. to take care of Apopka, Florida. I am looking to New Destiny Christian Center to be responsible. Therefore, we have to involve ourselves in government, but we can't just say, we're going to go up and fight and fight and fight. I'm responsible for the person that's homeless and hungry and everything else. If you see a person that is hungry, it's my responsibility, if I have power to do good, to do it.
I'm going to ask each and every one of you, what do you talk to the president about when you call them or when they call you?
I remember being in several meetings and recent meetings with these powerful people, but it seems to me that unlike Joshua Dubois, I've been asked to give input on specific issues.
What are those
and like marriage, like family, like most recently religious liberty, Supreme Court justice choices, and that's one level of influence in policy areas. I think they can take it or leave it, what you have to say. My prayer, though, is that I would be someone who would have greater spiritual influence in that with a statement can come conviction from God versus, I'll give you an example. This is not a president's advisor years ago on a conference call, and these guys had just gotten elected, and the church had helped them get elected. And he says, well, we understand that you're concerned about all these issues, but we've got to handle the economy. We've got to handle this. And it was almost like, I'm listening to you because you represent a constituency, but I don't have to do anything with what you say. You're not speaking to me as a prophetic voice of conscience. You're just another one of the voters.
The question is, how do we engage with presidents?
What do you tell them? Yeah,
well, the first question, the first thing I often say is actually a question, and that's, how can I pray for you? And you know, these folks are people who walk around, in the case of President Obama, with quite literally the weight of the world on their shoulders. And sometimes you want to be a person that helps them share that burden a little bit and carry it a little bit for them. There have been so many conversations and things that we've shared. My role was often walking with him through moments of national challenge and tragedy. The president called on me to travel with him, for example, to Sandy Hook after the massacre of children at Newtown, and because he knew that when something is that terrible, that it's not just a policy problem or you know, just related to the facts on the ground, but there's a spiritual problem there as well. And he asked me to be with him as he was comforting those families there. And so that's, you know, that's one of the roles. But he has always had sort of a knee-jerk focus on who's being left out. So he didn't need to be reminded of that. You know, who is not at the table? Who are the vulnerable folks that we need to speak for? And so we were generally on the same page about those types of questions.
This president, number 44, had a major decision to make that challenged his legal prowess and his faith. Did you step in on that issue when it came to same-sex marriage?
We had conversations about it, and one of the things that was interesting to me about President Obama was there were the policy implications, but a lot of it for him was personal. He said that he was no longer willing to engage with Americans who didn't have, you know, share his sexuality, that were in the LGBT community, and feel like he was denying them something that he had access to. He understood, though, that there would be a ton of people who would disagree with him on that, and he thought that everybody had a space at the table. But yes, we certainly had conversations about that as well.
A peaceful protest turned deadly. 37-year-old black man was shot and killed by Baton Rouge police. Hands are in the air, and you still get shot by the cops.
Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead.
We're not gonna let hate define us.
Race is a big part of this.
If truly all lives matter, then all lives need to matter equally.
What we require is action. What we require is accountability. We understand that black lives do matter, and we will keep focused on this issue.
News 1 Now, every weekday morning at 7 on TV 1.